So I'm really in a bind. I have to teach Sydney's defense of poetry hours now. And I'm prepared to teach the poem, but I haven't really introduced any of the context. So I'm going to show you the secrets to give you the keys to the castle here. Um, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT, what are the important historical contexts for understanding Sir Philip Sidney's um, defensive poetry. Let's see. So it's going to give me a bunch of different stuff. Wow. Um, let's start with the Renaissance ideals. We'll scroll down. I don't know how much it's going to give us here. Classical influences. So my students, I'm just skimming through this really quickly. My students have read Aristotle, and I know that Sydney is quoting Aristotle, so I'll definitely have to mention this, and probably Plato as well. Oh, then the Protestant critique of the arts. So seems important. The Protestant Reformation brought about heightened scrutiny of the arts of images, basically. Um, and Sidney's response can be seen as a response to Gausson's The School of Abuse. Oh, so this is an immediate context. So that Aristotle is the very broad intellectual historical context. Here's the very local context. I have to mention this also. Elizabethan court culture. Um, I'm not wild about that. English versus classical languages. We did a little bit of that with Mulcaster. It's repeating itself here with the School of Abuse. I don't know why it's doing that twice. Um, art as imitation. And I know this might go back to Aristotle because Aristotle, of course, has this idea of mimesis, which I know because I read Sydney, it appears in Sydney, so I'm gonna have to remember this one as well. And this seems kind of fun. His diplomatic and military career, he was died in battle. Um, I'm going to just for the heck of it, because I want more info, I'm going to ask it, tell me more about Gaussen as a framework, as a context for understanding Sydney. Let's see. Crucial context. Okay, so this we always like this is the stuff we care about. I mean, the moralistic attack, blah blah blah, that it says up there. Um, oh, he was an actor first, and then he went to the dark side. It turns out that his book was quoted the most in the late 1630s and the early 1640s before 1642 when the theater was closed. So that's I mean we're already going into depth here. Let me see if I wanted to write an MA thesis on the relationship between Gaussen and Sydney, I would say, are there particular passages in Gaussen to which Sydney is likely responding? Oh, there are. And not only that, but it's going to give them to me. Wow. Um, and this one comes up. All poets are liars, and the very name of poet implies a maker of lies. We will see, or I will see, this is really helpful for my preparation, that Sidney says the poet never lieth. So we have to figure out what he's saying. And he also refers to the poet as a maker. And he's going to take the term that for Gaussen is so negative, and I'm guessing it has a little bit to do with the classical background, not only Aristotle, but Plato. But Sidney will change that, and as we'll see when we read, or as my students will see when we read the text, maker functions very, very differently for Sidney. So I think I'm okay now. I mean, I'm going to go for the humanists, the Protestant context, Gaussen, and I might let me just see. Can you tell me more? I want to know more cool stuff about Sidney's life. Um, and oh, that's all Gaussen. Oh, so can we go back to, I'm going back to the last one. The last was Sydney as a diplomat, courtier. And here we're just getting all the stuff that, or the beginnings of what we might want to know. Sidney was the ultimate Renaissance polymath, poet, courtier, diplomat, and soldier. A champion of the Protestant cause. He died at 32 on the field in the Netherlands. There's just a ton of stuff here, and I'm not going to mention all of this to my introduction to Renaissance stuff, but you just see there's so much room here. Um, this is kind of what I'm telling my students. You're kind of going right from the BA into the possibility of an MA, because any one of these things could be, you can just keep on going further and further and ask more and more specific questions and find text and make comparisons. And once you do this, then you can open up Gosset if you want to and read it in relationship to Sydney, and the whole world will be open to you. Again, ChatGPT is bad at the one thing people think it's good at, which is making original arguments. The thing that it's really good at is doing what we just did here. That is bringing things together that you might not have thought of bringing together. Dr. Johnson, the 18th century critic, said that the metaphysical poet, he's talking about John Donne, takes the most heterogeneous ideas and yokes them together. In a way, that's what ChatGPT does. It takes these different things. Sometimes it doesn't find similarities, and sometimes its similarities are forced. But here, it just opened up Sydney in ways, not only for me as an instructor, but as for advanced BA students, for MA students. It's almost as if I'm not saying the hard work is, you have to still do the hard work, but the hard work, instead of starting down here, you can't see my hand, we're already up here on this level because there's so much we can already know. Again, ChatGPT is not an end, it's a beginning. And now I know what to read. And by the way, we never, ever, ever ask ChatGPT to understand a sonnet for us, because that it will do half well. But we don't want to give up the thing that we bring, which is ourselves, to reading. That's the most important thing.